Hello and welcome. You're watching Market Meter on Money9. I'm Sakshi, Batra, a show where we recap for you the entire market day's trading action in the first half. And we also get you introduced to a fundamental expert who shares with us his views on the sectors and the stocks that will be important to watch out for from here on. Joining us today is a very special guest, Mr. V.K. Vijay Kumar from Geojit Financial Services. He's a fundamental expert. He joins in. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on Money9. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Sir,
participate in this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's our pleasure. First up, I'd like to ask you your market outlook, sir. We have been seeing that the budget provided ample triggers for the markets to take a new direction towards this bull run that we are witnessing currently. We've been seeing all-time high levels even getting recorded in today's trading session, and the markets are trading at these all-time high levels even as we speak. So you talk about the benchmark indices, Nifty and the Sensex. They've also climbed the landmark milestones of, say, 51,000 on the Sensex and even 15,000 level on the Nifty as well. So how are you approaching this market at these sky-high levels?
Well, markets have an uncanny ability to prove even the experts wrong. It is a fact that nobody expected this kind of a bullishness in the market. This is a bull on steroids, no doubt about that. We know that the most important factor driving this market is the ample liquidity available globally, and we have been receiving a huge FPI inflows. Last year we received 1.7 lakh crores, and the flows are continuing. That is the liquidity that is pushing the markets higher, and the globally low interest rates. But back home, there is another very important factor supporting the market. The fundamental factor supporting the market is the sharp V-shaped recovery in the macro economy. Of course, we can argue whether it is a V-shaped economy or a K-shaped economy, but the fact is, from the macro perspective, from the GDP growth perspective, from the corporate earnings perspective, from the organized sector perspective, which is what is important as far as the markets are concerned, it is a V-shaped recovery. And this year, the government has targeted 11% GDP growth, but I think they are erring on the side of caution. The IMF, which is more optimistic about India's growth, puts the growth rate at 11.5%. So with 11.5% nominal GDP growth, this will translate into 16.5, even 17% nominal GDP growth. And the corporate earnings can surprise on the upside. It can be anywhere between 25 to 30% for this year. And the Q3 results have been much better than the most optimistic expectations. Actually, the Q3 results has been better across industries. It is not just something confined to one industry alone. It is all the way it is there in banking, including the public sector banks, which have been underperformers for quite long, is slowly starting to participate in that. And it is there in IT, in FMCG, in pharma, in all sectors, and capital goods too.
Okay.
And during the last few days, yes, in the last 2 days, we have been hearing about capex expansion from automobiles and cement. They're talking about capital expenditure. So capex is something which did not happen in the economy during the last few years. Now that also is going to happen. So to put it very briefly, we are on the cusp of a growth and earnings upcycle.
Absolutely. And that's what exactly I wanted to understand from you, sir, because before this, we had been seeing that there was a whole lot of push by liquidity, and this was a liquidity-led, market rally that we were seeing at least before the budget really happened, and the liquidity provide enough trigger as well for the markets. But now in Q3 results, like you also pointed out, the results have been much better than expectations. Do you expect the earnings momentum to sustain from here on and provide even the fundamental support to the markets rally that they really require?
Yes, we expect the earnings support, the fundamental support to continue. But if you look at the sectors like construction, cement, automobiles, the results have been too good, and it continues to be good. A very important factor that has not been appreciated generally is the tailwind support which the low interest rates have given Today, a housing loan is available at 6.9%. When I took my housing loan some 26 years ago, I paid 11.75% interest. Now you're getting a housing loan. The youngsters of, your generation, not my generation, at 6.9%, right? 6.9% interest on housing loan, your EMI is down by 25 to 28%. So too in the case of automobile loans. So these low interest rates have become a major tailwind for sectors like automobiles and construction. So this is one factor which is likely to sustain the growth and earnings recovery.
Absolutely.
If you look at the cement stocks, for instance, both the bottom line and the top line, both are expanding.
Right. And what we are seeing, especially in one more sector there I wanted to take your views on, and that would be the banking sector. Now, a banking sector has also led the rally from the front in the last 1 week after the budget provided enough cues to support the banking industry. Whole lot of capex announcement, recapitalization of PSU banks was also announced, and as well as privatization was also announced over here. We have seen that, a whole lot of load of the bad assets is also now slowly getting reduced for all the banks. So is that a cue to pick us, to understand that this is the space that we need to keep an eye out on for the next few years as well?
Partly yes, but more importantly, the capex growth and earnings, the economic GDP growth, that is the most important factor which is likely to support the earnings in the financials, particularly in banks. Okay. Because when you are going to have some 11% GDP growth this year, to be followed by some 6.8 or 7% growth the next year, well, there will be huge expenditure, capital expenditure, and also in the budget 5.54 lakh crores are to be spent on capex. So with this kind of capex, now remember only 39% of the capex is to be funded by the central government, 22%, 39% by the state governments, and 22% by the private sector. And for the private sector, this will be funded by the banking sector. Right, so all the capex will be financed by the banks, and in this banking segment, even though there has been some rally in public sector stocks, well, we are not very optimistic about the potential of the public sector banks going forward. Of course, the top names, the 3 of maximum 4 names in public sector banks is okay, but then the public sector banks are undercapitalized. Even with this 20,000 crore capitalization for the public sector banks, they won't be having enough money to lend. Whereas the private sector bank, the leading name, the 3-4 leading private sector banks, they are adequately capitalized, they have enough money, they can raise more money. So they have been raising their market share during the last 5 to 6 years, and this increase in market share for the private sector banks will continue. So more earnings will happen in the top private sector banks names. Of course, apart from the private sector bank, we are also bullish on top names in mortgage finance, and also the top name in fintech companies also.
Okay, but despite the high valuations currently, and despite the run-up already that we have seen, does this space still merit attention with respect to the private sector banks that you're talking about, the top few names, as well as the mortgage finance companies?
Yes, those valuations can be justified for these companies, which I am indicating to. They have always been, from the perspective of valuation, overvalued. They have always been overvalued. They will continue to be overvalued, right? So there is absolutely no reason to be worried about the high valuations of these quality names.
Okay. What about the IT sector? So that is something that has not rallied so much as the other sectors in the recent run-up that we've seen in the markets. Do you think there is enough merit to pay attention on the top names, from the large caps or even the bigger mid caps in this space? Does that attract you at the moment?
Yes, in this particular month, in February, the IT segment has been underperforming, and the financials have been outperforming. So the performance will be shifting from settlements to settlements from month to month. That can happen. But if you look at the valuations of the top names in the IT segment, the valuations are relatively cheap. Their growth rate is similar to the growth rate of the FMCG companies. And the FMCG companies with the same growth rate, have a PE of 40, 45, 50, going up to 70, right? So, and as far as IT is concerned, we are on the cusp of an upcycle in earnings, and the top companies have already told us that the deal wins have been spectacular. So there is big earnings visibility in the segment.
Okay, so we have been seeing stocks like Bharti Airtel also performing quite well this time. Do you think that telecom space also would be attractive looking from here onwards? Is that something that you're looking at? And what could be the triggers that could be providing support, if at all, to this particular sector going on from here?
Yes, in telecom, we know telecom is likely to do well for an extended period of time because work from home is the new normal. Even post-COVID, we will have work from home for many segments. So when you work from home, there will be an explosion in data consumption. And with this explosion in data consumption, the bottom line of these companies will simply expand. If you look at the results of the two major companies in telecom, we have a duopoly right now. In both RIL and Bharti, the ARPUs have gone up. Even without a price revision, the ARPUs are going up. And with the aggregate gross revenue dispute behind us, perhaps there can be some pleasant surprises there because the matter is again in the Supreme Court. So in this segment, the valuations are not high. If you are looking at the earnings for the next couple of years, the earnings can surprise on the upside. So with this work from home becoming the new normal, we are set to witness an explosive growth in data consumption.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Vijay Kumar, for sharing your views with us on these particular sectors and how should investors, keep, and where should investors really keep their eye on in the run-up in the markets right now, as well as in the course to come as well for the markets. Thank you very much for sharing your views with us. Well, for now, Mr. Vijay Kumar really believes that there are particular sectors like financials, IT, also construction and cement, as well as telecom that could be on your radar from here on. Among the financials, he really bets on the top 5 or top few private sector banks, as well as some top names in the mortgage financial space. From the IT pack as well as cement pack, he does believe there is going to be enough room for the current top performing names to continue to ride on the valuations that they are currently at. Also, the telecom space, with the kind of change in the working culture, there's going to be enough room for the telecom space companies to also ride on the growth momentum that it is already seen in the work from home culture as well. So these are the particular sectors that he really bets on from here on for the markets. तो चलिए फटाफट से एक बार देख लेते हैं कि मार्केट्स में भी इस समय किस तरीके से ट्रेड हो रहा है। आज शुरुआत जो हुई थी वो एक गैप अप के साथ हुई थी और ऑल टाइम हाई पर हमने मार्केट्स की ओपनिंग देखी थी, भले ही वो बेंचमार्क इंडेक्स सेंसेक्स की बात करें या फिर आप निफ्टी की भी बात कर सकते हैं। फिलहाल के लिए 1% तक का अप मूव हमें देखने को मिल रहा है सेंसेक्स और निफ्टी दोनों में ही। जो हाई पॉइंट है उससे थोड़ा कम जरूर आया है, लेकिन अभी भी जो बढ़त है वो बरकरार है। अराउंड 500 अंकों की तेजी देखने को मिल रही है फिलहाल के लिए भी सेंसेक्स में, और 150 पॉइंट्स की तेजी निफ्टी 50 में भी देखने को मिल रही है। अगर आप निफ्टी बैंक को देखेंगे तो अभी वो 36,000 के नीचे फिसल चुका है, लेकिन अभी भी करीब 1% तक के आसपास की जो बढ़त है वो बनाई हुई है। मिड कैप और स्मॉल कैप इंडेक्स इस समय बेंचमार्क इंडिसेस को आउट परफॉर्म करते हुए नजर आ रहे हैं। 19,667 का लेवल अभी मिड कैप इंडेक्स का है, वहीं स्मॉल कैप में भी अगर आप देखेंगे तो 19,371 के लेवल पर ये इंडेक्स भी ट्रेड करता हुआ नजर आ रहा है। तो ऑल इन ऑल काफी अच्छा मोमेंटम है। हालांकि वोलेटिलिटी थोड़ी बढ़ रही है, लेकिन ओवरऑल मोमेंटम काफी स्ट्रांग है। बुल रन अभी भी कंटिन्यूड है। कुछ पर्टिकुलर सेक्टर्स की जहां पर बात करें, जहां अच्छा मोमेंटम देखने को मिल रहा है, वहां पर ऑटो स्पेस में 2-2.25% तक का अप मूव देखने को मिल रहा है। मेटल्स, मीडिया और आईटी सेक्टर्स में भी काफी अच्छा मूव इस समय देखने को मिल रहा है। रियल्टी इंडेक्स 2.25% तक के साथ इस समय लीड करता हुआ नजर आ रहा है, और साथ ही फार्मा पैक में भी थोड़ा बहुत इंप्रूवमेंट है। जहां प्रॉफिट बुकिंग दिख रही है वहां पर एफएमसीजी स्पेस में अगर आप देखेंगे तो 0.31% तक की वीकनेस है, और वहीं अगर आप देखेंगे पीएसयू बैंकिंग इंडेक्स इस समय वीकनेस के साथ ट्रेड कर रहा है। खासतौर पर स्टॉक्स जैसे कि पीएनबी, इन सब में ज्यादा गिरावट अभी देखने को मिल रही है। तो पीएसयू बैंकिंग स्पेस में फिलहाल के लिए काफी प्रेशर देखने को मिल रहा है। तो ये तमाम सेक्टर्स हैं जहां पर आज मूवमेंट देखने को मिल रहा है। एक बारी नजर टॉप गेनर्स पर इस घंटे के लिए एमएनएम अभी भी 6.5% तक की तेजी के साथ 921 के लेवल्स पर ट्रेड कर रहा है। हिंडाल्को और गेल में अगर आप देखेंगे 3 से 4.5% तक की मूवमेंट है। वहीं भारतीय एयरटेल अभी भी टॉप गेनर्स में शामिल है और 3-3.25% तक का मूवमेंट यहां पर भी दिख रहा है। एलएनटी पिछले हफ्ते से जो अपना रन है वो कंटिन्यू लगाता हुआ नजर आ रहा है और अब ये लेवल जो है 1565 के ऊपर पहुंचता हुआ दिख रहा है और काफी सारे एक्सपर्ट्स ने एलएनटी पर बेट्स भी लगाए हैं। और अगर आप देखेंगे ब्रोकरेज हाउसेस ने भी काफी अच्छे हाई टारगेट्स इस स्टॉक के लिए भी दिए हुए हैं। आगे जाते हैं और देखते हैं कि लैगार्ड्स इस समय कौन से हैं। तो ब्रिटानिया रिजल्ट्स के बाद 1.25% तक की वीकनेस दिखा रहा है। डिविस लेबोरेटरीज में भी नतीजों के बाद यहां वीकनेस है। कोटक महिंद्रा बैंक, आईटीसी और हिंदुस्तान लीवर कुछ और ऐसे स्टॉक्स हैं जहां पर इस समय वीकनेस के साथ ट्रेड देखने को मिल रहा है। तो फटाफट से इसी शो को यहीं समेटते हैं, लेकिन लगातार एक्शन बना रहेगा मार्केट्स के ऊपर भी और पर्सनल फाइनेंस स्पेस पर भी। मनी 9 पर आज 3 बजे खास चर्चा होगी कमोडिटी एक्सपर्ट वंदना भारती के साथ, जो कि आपको बताएंगी क्या अब सही समय है गोल्ड में, सोने में निवेश का। तो आप जुड़े रहिए हमारे साथ मनी 9 पर।